Chapter 93 of JinPingMei original version. Wang Xing'an showed charity to the poor children, and Taoist Jin committed adultery with his younger brother. Speaking of Chen Jingji, after Sister Ximen died and was sued by Wu Yunyang and a lawsuit was filed, Fang Jinbao, the singer, returned to the hospital and had just received a scrape. The house was sold, the capital was gone, the boss was gone, and the guy was gone. He also said that Chending sent people outside, took away the money, and drove Chending away. The family didn't pay enough for each plate every day, so they went to Yang Daling's house from time to time to ask him about the whereabouts of half of the cargo. One day, when he came to Yang Daling's door, he shouted, "Is Yang Daling at home?" Unexpectedly, Yang Guangyan kidnapped half of his cargo, and while he was away, he sold some silver coins and fled in all directions. When he found out that his wife had been hanged at home, his mother-in-law sued him in the county and was imprisoned for half a month. Yang Daling suddenly came to live at his house. When he heard that Jingji came to call him and asked about the whereabouts of the cargo ship, he sent his brother Yang Erfeng out and asked Jingji's important person, "You asked my brother to do business outside. There has been no news in the past few months. I don't know how to leave him in the river. In Hanai, lives were lost, but you came to my house to find the whereabouts of the cargo ship. Human lives are more important, but your cargo is more important." This Yang Erfeng has always been a cunning rogue, playing tricks on money, with purple flesh all over his arms and yellow hair on his chest. Long, he is a straightforward bachelor. When he came out, he grabbed Jingji and asked him for someone. Jingji hurriedly broke away and ran home. This Yang Erfeng deliberately picked up a three-pointed tile wedge, drilled his head open, and his face was covered with blood. He rushed to Jingji and cursed, "I am your empress. What kind of money do I see in your house? Come to my house. If you fart inside, give me a good fist." Jingji Jin was desperate, so he rushed home and closed the door like an iron barrel. He took Yang Erfeng to his parents, scolded them, and smashed the door with a big brick. "But I didn't dare to breathe out from my nose and mouth. What's more, the lawsuit just came out, and the dream rope snake was also afraid, so he had to endure it." It's true, young grass is afraid of frost and sun, and evil people will be punished by evil people. Not long after, he sold his big house, found 70 taels of silver, bought a small house, and lived in a secluded alley. 2 girls were behind and sold 1 Changshire, leaving only Yuan Shower to rest in the same bunk with him. Less than half a month later, I vacated the small house and went to rent a house to live in. Chenin also left. The family had no business. Yuan Zhaoer also died, and she was single and alone. All the tables and chairs were sold, leaving her completely penniless. Not long after, the rent was not paid and he got into a cold bunk and took himself there. When Hanako saw that he was a hard-working boy from a rich family and was handsome, he asked him to sleep on the hot king and cook pancakes with him. Someone came over that night and taught him how to bear the fire, play the clapper, and ring the bell. It was the 12th lunar month at that time, the last part of winter. Heavy snow fell from the sky, the wind blew up, and it was very cold. The worker, Jingji, knocked back his clapper and sent out the knight's military cards. He inevitably walked through several streets with his bell. It was snowing again, and the ground was treading on the ice again. I was so cold that I shrugged my shoulders and shivered. Just before 5 o'clock, when the rooster crows, I see a sick flower lying under the wall. He is afraid that he is dead. The general manager assigned him to watch over him and found some grass for him to roast. Jingji stayed awake all night, so he leaned down and fell asleep. I didn't want to have a dream. I dreamed that I was in Ximen King's house, how I was blessed with glory and wealth, hooked up with Pan Jinlian, played and joked, and woke up crying from my sleep. The flowers asked, "Why are you crying?" Jingji then said, "Brothers, how do you know about my suffering? I have been suffering for many years. My wife died. I have no clothes and no food. My horse died. My slave escaped from the house. He was sold again and was alone in a foreign land. He went to Yisi shop to ask for food, and stayed at the manor in the evening against the defeated wall. There was only one way behind him, to play Bengal in a cold shop. Chen Jingji stayed in a cold shop at night and begged for food on the streets during the day. There is an old man in Qing County, whose surname is Wang Mingxuan, whose given name is Tingyang. He is more than 60 years old. His family is well off. He is kind-hearted, generous in giving away money, dedicated to helping the poor and relieving suffering, loves good deeds and worships God. The two sons born to him are both responsible for establishing their own families. The eldest son, Wang Jin, inherited his ancestral position and became the steward of the herdsmen. Zheng Qianhu, the second son, Wang Shen, became a student in the Fexus school. The old man hired a supervisor and opened a pawn shop. Every day he had plenty of food and clothing, and he was free to relax, listen to sutras in the Brahma temple, and preach in the Lin Palace. When nothing happens, he administers medicine to save people at home, picks up pearls, and recites Buddha's name. Because there are 2 apricot trees in the back garden. The Taoist name is Xing'an Zheshi. One day, Xing'an, wearing a double-brimmed scarf and a hydration Taoist uniform, stood at the door. I saw Chen Jingji hitting him on the doorstep, then squatting on the ground and kowtow. Xing'an, who was busy, did not return the courtesy and said, "My brother, who are you? I'm so blind that I don't recognize you." Jingji stood tremblingly and said, "I'll tell you the truth, I'm a pine seller. I am the son of Chen Hong." The old man thought for a long time and said, "Aren't you Chen Daquan's son?" Seeing that his clothes were ragged and he looked haggard, he said, "My dear nephew, why do you look like this?" Then he asked, "How are your father and mother?" Jingji said, "My father died in Tokyo, and my mother also died." Xing'an said, "I heard that you were staying at your father-in-law's house." Jingji said, "Outside the house after my father died, my grandmother kicked me out after his daughter died. He sued me and filed a lawsuit. I also sold my house and some capital, which was all eaten up by others. I have been idle and unable to make a living." Xing'an said, "My dear nephew, where do you live now?" Jingji said nothing for a long time and said, "To be honest with you, old man, this is so. Thinking back to the time when your family was so well established. Your father and I knew each other, dear nephew. You were still young and we went to school with our heads tied up. How did you end up in this position? It's hurtful. It's hurtful. You are political as your family, even more in-laws. They don't care about you or your children." Jingji said, "Exactly. My uncle Zhang never comes to visit for a long time, so it's not easy to go." After asking him a question, the old man asked him to sit in the guest seat inside and ordered the boy to set the table and put out snacks. When the rice comes, teach him to eat as hard as he can. Seeing that he was cold, he took out a green cloth cotton Taoist robe, a felt hat, another pair of felt socks and cotton shoes, weighed 1 tael of silver, and 500 copper coins, handed them to him, and said to him, "My dear nephew, these clothes, shoes and socks are with you, and the copper coins are with you, renting half a room to live in. With this tael of silver, you can do some small business, and you can live by it. It is better than living in a cold shop without learning. A good person will come. How much is the monthly rent? Come here, I will tell you." Chen Jingji kowtowed on the ground and said, "My nephew knows." He took the money and left the front door of Xing'an. He didn't look for a house or do business, so he just spent the 500 coins in hotels and restaurants every day. The 1 tael of silver was pounded into some white copper pots and used in the street. The patrolling bandit was taken to the section of the square and beaten until he was exhausted and even had sores on his buttocks. In less than 2 days, the cotton clothes on my body were gone. My socks were exchanged for food, and I was still begging for food on the street. One day, I hit Wang Xing'an again and passed by the door. Xing'an was at the door. I saw Jingji coming to kowtow. He had no clothes and socks on him. He was only wearing his felt hat and barefoot shoes, and he was begging and shrinking from the cold. The old man then asked, "Master Chen, how's the business going? The rent money has arrived. Are you here to collect the rent money?" Chen Jingji was speechless for a long time. After asking again and again, Fang said so and so, but it was all gone. The old man then said, "Ah, my dear nephew, This is not the way to live your life. You can't bear the light and the heavy burden, but you have done some small work, which is not better than begging, so as not to make others laugh at you, which is a shame. It's the name of your father and ancestor. Why don't you listen to me?" At the same time, he let Intong inside and taught Intong to bring him rice to eat with him. He also gave him a pair of trousers, a white shirt, a pair of foot bindings, a sling of copper coins, and a bushel of rice. You can start a small business by selling some charcoal, beans, and melon seeds, and you can live a good life. Better than asking for food like this. Although Jingji agreed, he took the money and rice in his hand and left the old man's house. After a few days, he ate all the cooked meat and noodles in the cold shop with Hanako. Playing with money, I lost my white shirt and trousers. In the first month of the first lunar month, I walked down the street with my arms on my shoulders again. It was not easy to see the old man. I walked under the gable of his front room and stood facing the sun. The old man saw him coldly and did not call him. He was robbed, and then kowtowed on the ground in front of his roots. Seeing that he was still like this, the old man said, "My dear nephew, this is not a regular policy. Your throat is as deep as the sea, and the sun and the moon are as fast as a shuttle. How can you fill the bottomless pit? Come in, and I will tell you that there is a place to go, and I'm free, and I'm safe for you, but I'm afraid you won't go." Jingji knelt down and cried, "If I feel pity for you, I won't stay there, but I'll just put my body down, and I'll go if you want." Xing'an said, "Here we go." Not far from the city, on Matu, Linqing, there is a temple of Duqian. It is a land of fish and rice, a place where boats come together, money and food are abundant, and it is quiet and unrestrained. The Taoist priest in charge of the temple has a close relationship with Lao Zhuo, and he also has 2 or 3 people under his command, disciple, and grandson. I will prepare a gift and send you to become a disciple and become a monk. It is also good to learn some classics and play, and to bring blessings to others. Jingji said, "I will take care of you, so you know it is good." Xing'an said, "In this case, you go. Tomorrow is a good day. Come early. I will take you there." Jingji went. Mr. Wang quickly called a tailor and made 2 Taoist robes, a Taoist bun, and complete shoes and socks for Jingji. The next day, Jingji arrived. Mr. Wang taught him to take a bath in the empty room, comb his hair, put on a Taoist bun, put on a new coat and trousers inside and outside, put on a silk Taoist robe on top, and wore Yunlu felt socks on the bottom, and prepared for plates of soup and fruit. A jar of wine, a ruler, and 5 taels of silver were sealed. He then rode on horseback, hired a donkey and rode with Jingji, followed by Intong and Shitong. The 2 of them carried the box and load, went out of the city gate, and went directly to Linqing Matu Yinggang Temple, only 70 miles, a day's journey. By the time we arrived at Yinggang Temple, it was getting late. Mr. Wang dismounted his horse and entered the temple. I saw lush green pines, dense cypresses, 8-character red walls on both sides, and 3 red doors in the front, forming a beautiful temple. But see, the mountain gate is towering, and the palaces and pavilions are layered. There is a gold book hanging on the forehead of the edict, and a colorful painting showing the appearance of the court and the entrance. The 5 main halls are decorated with 12 dragon kings. The 2 corridors are engraved with millions of water people. The flagpole stands tall and the handsome words attract the wind. It extends in all directions, and social rites are enjoyed at the right time in the spring and autumn period. The rains follow the wind, and people along the rivers offer sacrifices. The incense and its powerful spirit will be there for thousands of years, and the officials and people in the 4 realms will rely on you. A child had already been seen at the gate of the mountain and reported to the abbot, while the Taoist priest hurriedly dressed himself and went out to greet him. Wang Xing'an ordered Jingji and gifts to be served outside. After a while, Taoist priest Ren led Xing'an into the abbot Song Hekxuan to perform the ceremony, and said, "Old Wang, how come you never come to our temple to celebrate? How lucky you are to have me here today." Xing'an said, "Only due to the long customs at home, I have not been able to visit you for a long time." After reciting the ceremony, The guests and hosts sat down, and the boy offered tea. After tea, Taoist priest Ren said, "Old layman, it's getting late today, so I just don't want you to go." Fen Fu took the horse into the back trough to feed it. Xing'an said, "If you have nothing to do, I won't go to the Three Treasures Hall. I have committed some blasphemy. I don't know if I will tolerate it." Taoist Ren said, "What advice does the old layman have? He only cares about sharing, and everyone in the small way takes orders." Xing'an said, "Now there is a son of an old friend. His surname is Chen and his given name is Jingji. He is 24 years old. He is born with handsome qualifications and is quite smart. It's just that his parents died too early and he dropped out of school at an early age. If we talk about his father's foundation, it is not the nameless young man has a fortune, but he unfortunately lost his fortune due to official affairs and has nowhere to live. The old man thinks of him and wants to send him to your palace as an apprentice out of respect for our old friendship. I don't know what your respect is." Ren Taoist priest said, "Old layman pays his share. How dare you disobey Xiao Dao because of Xiao Dao's fate, even though there are 2 or 3 disciples under his command. None of them are easy, and none of them are established. Xiao Dao often makes people angry. I don't know whether this person is honest or not." "Honest," Xing'an said. "This young man, without hiding anything from my respected master, only cares about peace of mind and is blindly honest about his duties. He is also timid and is a good example in everything he does. He can be a disciple." Taoist priest Ren asked, "When will it be? Send it?" Xing'an said, "I saw you waiting outside the mountain gate. There are some small gifts." Fuki smiled and accepted them. The panicked Taoist priest Ren said, "Why didn't you tell me earlier?" He said, "Please." Then he carried the box people carry in gifts. When Taoist Ren saw the post, it was written, "I would like to have one end of a thick piece of equipment, a bottle of Lu wine, a pair of pig's hooves, to roast ducks, 2 boxes of tree fruits, and 5 taels of platinum." Jisheng Wangzhuanden bowed his head. He quickly bowed his head and thanked him. He said, "Why did the old layman give so many important gifts to the Taoist priests?" But he was disrespectful and felt ashamed to receive them. "I saw Chen Jingji wearing a golden beam Taoist bun on his head, green silk Taoist clothes, cloud shoes under his feet, pure socks, and a silk ribbon tied around his waist. With delicate eyebrows, white teeth and red lips, and a face as pink as powder. He walked in and bowed down to Taoist Ren. 4 times and 8 times, Taoist Ren asked him, "How much youth?" Jingji said, "He is a horse, and he is 24 years old in the new year." Taoist Ren saw that he was really smart, so he gave him a Buddhist name, JinPingMei. It turns out that Taoist Ren had 2 apprentices. The eldest apprentice was named Jin and Zongming. The second apprentice was named Zhu and Zongxun. His name was JinPingMei. Wang Xing'an invited everyone out to see Li Shu. While receiving the gifts, the child held a lantern in his hand and placed jewelry on the table. He set the meal first and then drank the wine. Dishes, cups and plates were piled on the table. Nothing more than chicken hooves, goose, duck, fish and the like. Mr. Wang didn't drink much, so his disciples took turns to persuade him to go around. Mr. Wang was too drunk and said goodbye. The room has its own bed for a good night's rest. In the early morning of the next day, the boy scooped water to cleanse his face. And after washing himself, the Taoist priest came early to deliver tea. After a while, the meal was served, 2 glasses of wine were eaten. The head and mouth were fed, and the manpower and money to carry the box were paid. Wang Laolan stood up and called Jingji to share the money. "I am here too. Study the classics attentively and listen to the master's instructions. I often come to see you and send you clothes and shoes every season." Then he said to Taoist Ren, "If he doesn't listen to the lesson and takes responsibility for punishment, he will not protect his shortcomings." He secretly told Fu Jingji, "After I leave, you must clean up your mind, correct yourself, study hard and other things. If you are restless again, I will not care about you anymore." Jingji promised, "My son, I understand." Mr. Wang immediately resigned as a Taoist priest, went out, mounted his horse, left Yinggang Temple, and went home. From then on, Jingji became a Taoist priest in Yangon Temple. Because he saw that Taoist Ren was an old man with a red nose, a tall body, a loud voice, a mustache, good conversation and drinking. And he only specialized in welcoming and seeing off guests. All matters, big and small, are in the hands of the great disciple JinPingMei. At that time, the Imperial Canal was first opened, and locks were built in lynching to save water. Regardless of officials or civilians, everyone came to the temple when the boat arrived at the lock, either to pray for blessings from the gods, to make sacrifices, to set up hexagrams and inscriptions, or to do good deeds. Some gave money and rice, some offered scented oil, paper candles, and some left mats of pine, artemisia and reed. This Taoist priest ordered his disciples to open a money and rice shop in Matu to sell the excess money and grain in the permanent office, so as to accumulate the money for his own pocket. His eldest disciple, JinPingMei, was not a stickler for his duties either. He is about 30 years old and often seduces women and prostitutes. He is a drunkard and a womanizer. He also has to clean young apprentices who sleep in the same bunk for a long time. Seeing that Jing Zhisheng had white teeth and red lips, a face like a powder, a handsome face, and a sweet voice, and his eyes spoke, he invited him to live in the same room with him. Once she drank with him for half the night, got him drunk, and slept in a bunk. At first he slept on both sides, but he thought Jingji's feet smelled bad, so he asked him to sleep on the same pillow. After a short sleep, he was told that he was breathing heavily, causing him to turn around and put his buttocks against his stomach. Jingji fell asleep and ignored him. He hardened his words, put a stick upright, put some saliva on his head, and pushed it into his dung door. It turned out that Jingji was in the cold shop and had been fucked by the flower-flying ghost Huliner. His eyes were wide open and he went in without realizing it. Jingji said nothing and thought to himself, "This guy is a loser. He has gotten much better from Shi Fang, and he doesn't think of me as a person. Be a sweetheart to him, and teach him to accept some money in my hand." "Money," he shouted deliberately. JinPingMei was afraid that the old Taoist priest would hear it, so he quickly covered his mouth and said, "Good brother, be silent. Whatever you want, I will do it for you." Jingji said, "Since you want to seduce me, I won't say anything, so you can rely on me for 3 things. Zongming said, "Good brother, don't talk about 3 things. I will rely on you even for 10 things. Jingji said, "The first thing is, since you want me, you are not allowed to interact with those 2 people anymore. The second thing is, I want to hold the keys to the big and small rooms. The third thing, follow me where I go, and don't be angry with me. If you obey me, I will obey you." JinPingMei said, "It doesn't matter. I'll do whatever you want." That night, the 2 of them went crazy for most of the night. Chen Jingji has been in trouble since he was a child, and he doesn't know what's going on. At that moment, the alliance under the bed, the oaths on the pillow, the erotic words, the sucking and licking, coaxed JinPingMei into an hideous joy. On the second day, as expected, he had given all the keys to him and no longer stayed with the 2 apprentices. He only slept in the same bunk with him every day. 2 a day, 3 a day. JinPingMei praised him again and again for his honesty. Ren Taoists believed this and asked for an ultimatum for him. From then on, nothing was taken precautions against. Therefore, Chen Jingji often took money to play on the horse's head. When he saw Chen Sanner in the courtyard, he said, "Fang Jinbao, the bastard, died, and he was sold to the Zheng family, called Zheng Jinbao. Now he is in the big restaurant again. You're on your way. Why don't you look at him?" The young man did not change his old feelings. He took the money and went straight to the Matu restaurant with Chen Sanner. It would be better not to come here, but if it comes, it will be just right. Friends who have been friends for 500 years come to get together, and married couples meet again a few years ago. There are poems to prove it. In life, don't cherish your gold-threaded clothes, and in life, don't regret your youth. If there are flowers that you want to break, you must break them. Don't wait until there are no flowers and break branches. It turns out that this restaurant is the first restaurant in Linqing, named Z's Restaurant. There are hundreds of pavilions inside, surrounded by green railings. It is close to the hill and faces Guanhe River in front. It is a very busy place with people and boats coming and going. How come this restaurant is so tidy? But see, the carved eaves reflect the sun, and the facing buildings are filled with flying clouds. The green railings are low and connect to the windows, and the green curtains are high and hang above the windows. There are all princes and grandsons playing the sheng and flutes. There are singers and dancers holding lamps and cups. To kill the drunken eyes, follow the blue sky and thousands of clouds and mountains. To seduce the soul, turn over the auspicious snow and smoke in the river. Green poplars sing wild birds beside the building, and green willows bloom in front of the door. Chen Saner led Jingji upstairs and sat down in a pavilion. So he asked the waiter to mop the spring table, arranged wine tasting and food, and asked him to call Fanta downstairs. After a while, there was a sound on the stairs, and Feng Jinbao came up, holding a gong in his hand. He met Jingji and said a deep blessing. As the saying goes, when a lover sees his lover, he burst into tears. Exactly, a few sweet words are like warblers, and a string of pearls falls off the thread. As soon as Jingji saw him, he pulled him to sit down and asked, "Sister, where have you always been? I haven't seen you." Feng Jinbao shed tears and said, "Since the county government broke up, my mother has lied. Soon I fell ill and died, so I was sold to Zheng Wuma's house. There were few brothers these days, so I couldn't help but come to Linking's Matu to catch up with the drunkards. Yesterday, I heard Chen Saner say that you opened a money shop here and wanted to see you. As soon as we met, I didn't expect to see you today. You don't want to kill me." After saying that, he cried again. Jingji took out the handkerchief from his sleeve, wiped his tears, and said, "My sister, don't worry. I'm fine now. Since the lawsuit, my family fortune has been lost. I have invested in Yangong Temple to do this. I became a Taoist priest. The master has entrusted me very much. I will come to see you often in the future." Because he asked, "Where are you settling now?" Jinbao said, "I live at Liuer's house in Sajiadian, west of this bridge. There are hundreds of houses. The 4 lay courtyards, the prostitutes all set up there, and during the day they go to the various restaurants." As he said that, the two of them sat next to each other to drink. Chen Saner boiled the wine and went upstairs and took the pipa. Jinbao played and sang a song called Pushinla while drinking with Jingji. Tears were shed, tears were shed. 3 glasses of wine, 3 glasses of wine. Take apart the pair of Luan and Phoenix, fold the pair of Luan and Phoenix. Look at the slanting light outside the ridge. Look at the slanting light. Look at the slanting light outside the ridge. The sky is dark and the earth is dark, lingering and lingering. When the two of them were eating and drinking heavily, Zhu Min took off his clothes and went to the next room. This Chen Jingji has never been close to women. A man who has been thirsty for a long time can now meet a golden treasure and try his best to linger. After a while, everyone got dressed. Seeing that it was getting late, Jingji said goodbye to Jinbao. He gave Jinbao 1 tael of silver and Chen Saner 100 copper coins. He asked, "Sister, I often come to see you. Let's meet here, if you miss me." So Chen Saner asked me to come. When he came downstairs, he sent the owner Zi Sanlang 3 coins and wine money. Jingji went back to the temple. Feng Jinbao was sent to the bridge before returning. Exactly, looking forward to the autumn water because of money, crying for the beauty of Dang Tong.
Alright, this part of the story ends here.
Want to know what happened next? Let's listen to the breakdown next time.